How's it going, guys? Welcome to another episode of Reboot Recaffeinate. I'm Antonio.
And I'm Gianna.
Happy October!
Yeah, I mean, as you'll see, we have our lovely pumpkin. We'll probably be decorating more as, time goes on, so keep an eye out in our apartment. And yeah, so Antonio, what have you been playing this week?
I've been playing a lot of Soma for the PlayStation 4. It's from the same developer that has produced a number of PC-centric sort of horror first-person games, like Amnesia, games where you're typically, you don't have a weapon, you're being chased a lot, and there's a lot of pop scares. This time around, less so on the pop scares, like things popping up out you. Basically, you play this guy. You're going through some sort of potential brain surgery, and through that process, you wake up in a totally messed up underwater lab, and there's bodies everywhere. Something went wrong, and you're trying to figure out what happened. It is scary in the best way possible. None of the scares feel cheap.
That's good.
It reminds me a lot of Bioshock. And,
well, I was gonna say the reference because you're underwater and Rapture.
Yeah. So whereas that game goes into what does it mean to be a man, the powers of man, using powers of Bioshock.
Yeah.
This game's about our relationship with technology and how does technology extend to who we are. So I really like it so far. I'm almost done. So.
Nice. Pretty good game for October.
Yeah. So what all have you been playing?
I have been playing, again, Persona 4 because it's a very long game, and Kingdom Hearts, actually. I've been playing a lot of that. So, I know everybody's really frustrated after the announcement of 2.8 because it's far too long, and I would like an actual Kingdom Hearts game, not just one of these 1.5, 2.8s, 2.9s, anything like that. But I'm trying to kind of revisit this game. Honestly, I haven't played it in a while because I kind of stopped playing after they released 1,000,001 different, renditions of Kingdom Hearts with crazy storylines and, dealing with nobodies and people being other people. It's weird.
And again, this version's 1.5?
Yeah, it's Kingdom Hearts 1.5, so essentially it's a bundle, so there's 3 different games on it. 2 of which are playable, the other one which is basically you see all the cutscenes. So it's kind of a way to get people caught up with the storyline, because several of these games were released on things like the, I think it was the SP, there were some on the Vita, so they've been released on multiple platforms, so this is just getting everybody caught up.
So, with this game being, 10 years old now, does it still hold up, would you say?
Yeah, actually. The controls are definitely a lot more chuggy than what I remember them being. It takes a lot of getting used to, and it doesn't always respond as well as what I would like it to. But it's still a pretty game. It's still fun to play. It's honestly, I kind of appreciate the references more. Because as a kid, I think I took it for granted. I was like, oh fuck, this is a video game. Sorry,
it's okay.
Part of my language. This is a game which not only combines things like Final Fantasy elements, but it also has frickin' Goofy and Donald and Disney characters who actually the voice actors are pretty good in it. So it's really nice and very fun, and it's cool to see what they've done with this Disney universe mashed up with kind of an RPG-esque Final Fantasy universe. So it's really fun though. It's refreshing, it's nostalgic, and I don't know, I appreciate it. It's a great way to kind of de-stress and to just, revisit a game that I haven't played in a while. So.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, when playing Kingdom Hearts, one thing that I did find really interesting, which kind of ties to our segment today, is the music in it. So most of these songs I've never listened to on my own. They've just been songs that have been playing over and over in the background, and yet, I have a copy of the Kingdom Hearts 2 soundtrack, and I know almost all of these words by beat. I can listen to the song and say, oh yeah, this was in the Nightmare Before Christmas level.
Yeah.
So it's just crazy how, first off, the game itself kind of connects this memory of me playing it as a kid, and even just how the songs themselves can't be, or are stuck to this video game memory. So.
Cool. So similar in your vein, I've been playing a lot of Tony Hawk Pro Skater 5, which the game is kind of worse for where it's kind of falling apart, but what has stayed consistent since the first game in the franchise has been its soundtrack. Ever since I played the first Tony Hawk in elementary, I sort of fell in love with this like fusion of punk and ska and popish rock.
And also kind of some heavier stuff depending.
Yeah, and as the games progressed, they got further into like hip hop, and at times like Johnny Cash was in one of the Tony Hawk Underground games, which was interesting. And was most people's introduction to Johnny Cash, as weird as that sounds. For like people our age, yeah. So like they're in middle school and high school, like who is that guy? But yeah. So when it comes towards when I hear those songs outside of that game, I'm immediately brought back to that level. The second like I listen to a Suicide Machine song, I'm immediately reminded of the first game, and I'm like, all right.
See, and I mean the interesting thing about that, I mean Kingdom Hearts is definitely a score. I mean, the only real song with lyrics is Simple and Clean and Sanctuary in the second game. And so those songs I listened to on my own, and I legally downloaded it.
Oh.
Yeah.
You heard it here first.
And it was really cool, and I just really enjoyed it as a kid, and I learned all the words. There was actually in the booklet, I remember they had the words, and I memorized it. But that being said, the soundtrack is specifically made for the game. And the interesting thing about Tony Hawk, at least what you've been talking about, is that the soundtrack themselves are pulled from common songs that, could just be heard on the radio. So I think that's really interesting, and also I know that...
Same with Tony Hawk. A lot of these songs are eventually, you can hear them on the radio. In terms of songs exclusively for the games that right away take me to that game, games like Journey for the PlayStation 3, an amazing soundtrack. I believe it's like one of the first video game soundtracks to be nominated for a Grammy. And that was really cool when you hear that, because the music is so, would you say uplifting, or?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely builds the atmosphere.
Yeah.
Like, I think more so than any other game, what I've noticed is that Journey itself, the music becomes part of the game itself. So, like, not only is it just background music to play to, it's part of the emotion you feel, the crescendos, just the way it goes along can really define your experience in the game.
Also, there are some pieces of music that help you move throughout a game, like games like Rayman Legend, games like it's for the PlayStation 4. It's downloadable. Sound Shapes.
Oh yeah, that's
Sound Shapes. I've been playing a lot of that. So that game is all about beats and rhythms, and the beats try and tells you like, okay, this is the appropriate time to jump from platform to platform. And it's great. And the music is super catchy, and it moves in between one another in terms of like the music helps the platforming helps the music.
And I think if anything, also just one interesting thing about music too, that's kind of been highlighted in your post this week with Michael about Reboot Listens and Tony Hawk is, and even Michael's previous Reboot Listen segment, is just how much music choices can really make the game. Like I'm also thinking of Fallout. Because which made a deliberate decision. They have like this old-timey 1940s, 1950s, 1930s songs, which really set this kind of dystopian feel to it, and I think that's really powerful. Alright guys, this has been Reboot Recaffeinate. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and keep an eye out for what we have going on this week.
So keep an eye on our Facebook, our Twitter, our YouTube, on our website at therebootgamers.com.
We have some pretty good content coming up.
Daily stuff, reboot rundowns, reboot listens.
I'll be continuing my Nuzlocke story.
There's a Star Wars Battlefront beta this Thursday, and we should have our first impressions on Friday, so look forward to that. Until then,
stay caffeinated.
Yeah. See you next week.
Later, guys.
I like it.
You sure?
Yes.
Sure wasn't like 2 see you later, San Francisco.
That was good.